Hello again. So here's this little example problem looking at simple and normal force. Recall the normal force is a force due to any surface, and it's always 90 degrees to the surface, and which is why it's called the normal force. And we'll use a label Fn for it. So this particular object here has a free body diagram that looks like this, right? You have gravity pulling him down and the normal force pushing it up, and which is why your object has got no net force on it. It just sits there, and that's what your free body diagram looks like. Now this, of course, you know the force of gravity is simply mg, which is also the weight of the object. And so if I wanted to calculate what Fn is, well, Fn would have the exact same magnitude as mg, which is simply the weight of the object. Now remember, this only works when this is nice and horizontal. If it's not, then, if you have a case like this, then the normal force is that, and gravity is that, and these two do not equal each other. Yes, this component will equal the same as gravity. Or rather, if I use this as my axis, and say that's what my axis looks like, and the normal force is right on the y-axis, and gravity has two components, one which is this way and one which is that way. And it's this component that's going to equal the normal force. And if you go through the little trig with it, it ends up being mg cosine theta. So that becomes your new normal force if it's at a tilt. But we're going to come back and just stick with something just simple and straight like this. Okay, so obviously we could say the normal force is going to be equal to 5 times 9.8, which is mass times gravity is what I'm doing here. And that should give me 49 newtons. So 49 newtons would be the force of gravity acting downwards, and also 49 newtons is the normal force acting upwards, and that is what it looks like for this box. Well, what if I came and I put another object on top of it? I put another 2 kg object on this. Well, now the normal force has to prevent 7 kgs from sinking into the box, so it's going to go up by another 2 times 9.8, or 19.6 newtons, giving me 49 plus 19.6, so 68.6 newtons. So 68.6 newtons is the force that is going upwards, and we have altogether 68.6 with 5 kg from here and 2 kg from there, 2 times another 9.8, and it's another 19.6 newtons, and so we now have 68.6 newtons up and 68.6 newtons down. You can keep going doing that. The more weight you add up here, unless that table is going to break or something, the normal force would be sufficient and it would keep going up. And so the question then could be that, hey, well, what's the normal force between these two boxes? And so if you just look at it, if you look at the 2 kg box and you want to know what's the normal force on it, if we just make the diagram, or free body diagram for the 2 kg box, the only forces on it is mg, which is 19.6 newtons downwards, and 19.6 newtons upwards. And so the normal force that 5 applies onto 2 is 19.6 newtons. And so you could just kind of forget about that box and pretend that that is where the object is lying. It's really simple if you just work it out that way. And so now when you have something like this, you could say that, well, what is the normal force that 2 kg applies on the 5 kg? And that 2 would be 19.6 newtons using Newton's third law. Okay, so that's really a simple way of figuring out what is the normal force between boxes. Let's go ahead and put 3 together. So let's say that's 10 kg, and here's a 5 kg, and let's put another 2 kg up here. And so again, you could find the normal force here if you want, and that would be, of course, you just look at the top part on top and you say, well, you need 7 kg times 9.8 newtons of normal force to keep this up. And of course, you have the same 7 times 9.8 newtons of force acting downwards. Due to these two, only you pretend like this is your new level. And what you have now is being able to discover what the normal force is between this and this. So there you'd be adding those two together. And it's just kind of simple. You're just going to put this together and see what is the question they're asking. Remember, in each case, your net force is 0 at each point. And so it's pretty easy to evaluate, that the up forces must equal the down forces at any time. If you were looking over here, of course, it would be the sum of all of them. 17 kg times 9.8 would be the force of gravity acting downwards on this surface between these 2 points. And then you'd have an Fn of exactly the same 17 times 9.8 acting upwards. Okay? And so that's how you can find the normal force between each of them. And whenever they ask the question, well, what's the normal force that the other one acts back on it? It's again to go back to Newton's third law and realize that the force object A applies on B is equal to and opposite to the force that B applies back on A. Okay? So that's a little thing with simple normal forces. And, when you pile them up on each other, it's really simple. You just kind of look at them as one whole object or 2 objects or 3 objects, or 2 on 3, 1 on 2, whichever way you need to, depending on the questions that's asked. And that's how you work these through. I hope that helps with these multiple boxes. Bye for now.